Be sleep myself after an hour. Are we ready? We're good. Okay. All right. Um, Good evening. Good evening. Uh, I'm very excited to be here this morning and second this evening. Oh yeah, y'all have to forgive me. I've been doing a lot of research lately, and I've spent a lot of late nights or early mornings, as some of these fellows can tell you from the emails they received from me. So, but good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I'm excited to be here to share with you all the state of city addressed. We're going to start off with invocation and then kind of move forward into the agenda for today. Anybody hits? Dear Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for all those that are here. We thank you for those that are watching live stream. We ask you for peace, calm, and direction as we assemble and as we share the direction, the accomplishments, and the goals and the challenges and opportunities for the city of Manor. We thank you for this council. We thank you for our guests. We thank you for the city staff. We thank you for our residents. We thank you for our partners. We ask you to continue to bless us, draw us near to you so that we can continue to do what's best for the people and this community. We thank you for all that you're going to do. We thank you for tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So tonight is going to be a little bit different. If you've been to these with me before, I've navigated this process with a lot of just kind of a narration, me talking. And this evening, I wanted to couple some keywords with images, so that it would kind of go along and present better, but also so that you could actually see some data that goes along with what we're talking about. I have a lot to share, and I'm not going to rush because I want to make sure that everything that I'm talking about is clear. My hope is that you are engaged. My also hope is that you leave here empowered to take action. Before I get too deep into it, I want to pause and do some introductions. We have elected officials here that I definitely want to recognize. Begin with my colleagues, my city council persons. We have Councilman Aaron Marino, Councilwoman Ann Weir, Councilwoman Maria Mesqua, and Councilwoman Sonia Wallace, and we have Councilwoman Deja Hill and Mayor Pro Tem Emily Hill, who are not here tonight. So you all can just give them a round of applause. My good friend and always support Representative Cheryl Cole. Thank you for being here, and the mom and Jake. Appreciate you all for being here. Definitely want to recognize our city staff, city manager Scott Moore, and all the directors and staff that are here today. Constable Tanya Nixon, thank you for coming. She's another one that's always extremely supportive of what we do out here in Manor. And then Dr. Samani, who's here from the school district, our superintendent. Thank you, sir, for always supporting. I think we've hung out all week this week, so thank you for being here. I want to thank my beautiful wife, who's in the audience today, Shanine. Thank you for supporting me. I also have my mom that's here, sitting next to her. I appreciate you all being here. And then friends and families, Michael Perkins, Cameron, fraternity brothers that always stand in my corner. So I appreciate you all. All right. The past few years, the city has always started with kind of a summary of the different things we've experienced and gone through. And we've walked through a lot of different challenges. We talked about some storms and disasters that we faced. This particular city address is going to start from some economic successes. We're going to dive into some uh, political things, legislative agenda things, and really dive into the specifics that need to happen over time. It's not moving. Oh, y'all can't see. Is that better? All right. So tonight's focus, we're going to dive into our city demographics and an overview. We're going to spend some time on our legislative agenda updates, some accomplishments from 2025, our current challenges and opportunities, and then we're going to also end with a key initiatives and then a call to action. So I told you all I've been doing some research, and we've always talked about the city of Manor and our history, and I've worked to find some timelines and just kind of things that have happened in the area, and just kind of to put some data together that can stay in our archives as we continue to move forward as a city in regards to what has happened and transpired in our city. And I think one of the reason why I did this research was because I wanted to point out that um, Maynard's background and history has been built upon the diversity of the residents that have been here. And so prior to 1528, there's records that show that the community here was Native, African, and Spanish descent. And it talks about there's research on what was happening during this area and then what transpired during the Texas Revolution or prior to the Texas Revolution, and those good old folks that came from Tennessee, Houston, and James V. Maynard, when they came through, stopped into Louisiana, picked up some enslaved people to come in and build the city. And I think those things are important because right now the city is working through a lot of different things, and we're talking about our culture and our history, and we're talking about, well, what are the strengths of Manor, and it's been our diversity that was here in the beginning, and we're still a diverse city. And I want to highlight that later on when we get into the challenges and the opportunities that we face as a city. So some key facts in regards to the data. Today, Manor is 21,500 people, estimate. We are a diverse majority minority community. So when we talk about that beginning of 1528 prior and now, we're still a majority minority diverse community. You can see there 54% Hispanic, about 22% African American, 14% white, and 2.7% Asian, and so forth. We are a younger community than we were in 2021. At some point in time, I believe we were talking about our average age being around 40 or so, and now we're actually between 30 and 35, depending on the data that you're reading and going through. Home ownership is thriving in Manor. Our homes still average about 3 people per unit. The income is higher than what it was some years back. At one point in time, we were at I believe $19,000 a person. So that income now is a lot higher than what it was in the past. And you can see that we also have a commute of 28.5 minutes. So for everyone that's out there saying it's taking hours, it may be depending on how far you're coming from. Right now, our average is about 28 minutes. We have a lower commute. This is a fun fact. In doing the research, we actually have, when you look at small cities next to a metroplex, we actually have a shorter commute to the downtown Austin area than the city our size in the same proximity from San Antonio or from Houston or from Dallas. We actually have a shorter commute in that. So just a fun fact that even with all the highway infrastructure that they have, it's still quicker to move from Manor to downtown Austin than in those other places. We're still a fast growing community, and In 2025, we're labeled the sixth fastest growing small city in America. We are projected to double in size in the next 4 to 5 years. So you can see the graph. We're projected to have in a 225, well, we from 2013 to 2023, we've had about 225% growth. And you can see our average household income has increased. Highlighted in this section is that average income as well as our poverty rate of 6.7%. 2030, Manor will exceed 44,000 people, 106% growth. Something to consider and think about when we're listening to our residents and they're talking about streets, infrastructure, and sidewalks. I think Scott Dunlap, I think it was like 2019, 2020 when we adopted our new code for the city. And so prior to then, when I was looking at what percentage of the homes were actually built or under the previous code, it's about 79% of the city is under the old code. And so that's a lot of work that we have to do. And so when we're asking how come so much has not happened, is because 80% of the city is under old code. So when we're talking about drainage, sidewalks, there's a whole lot of work to do in those areas. And it's going to take time to address those needs. And I want to give this explanation because I think it's important when we talk about the challenges we're facing. When we build a community from older standards, and we're not taking in consideration, and council, y'all know we've had this conversation a while. We build the city, we build the community for whatever housing that's going to take place in that lot of land. We don't always think about what it costs to sustain that development. And so because we do not do that, when it's time to go back and fix drainage, when it's time to put in sidewalks, when there's major issues in that community, if we did not plan for sustainability and the ad valorem that comes from that community, the ad valorem, the money has to come from another community. And that's what we're facing right now, is you have a huge amount of our community that was designed under old code that was not built to sustain itself. And so the city has to do enough work to generate revenue to take care of the communities we're building and the communities of the past to cover the infrastructure, the drainage, and the sidewalks, and all those things that need to be fixed, while trying to keep the same tax rate and not increase. And that's a huge, huge burden that the city councilman and the city staff have, but we're committed to it. But I think it's for everyone to be on the same page about where we're going and how we're going to get there. I think everyone needs to understand where we're at and where we need to go. Top 5 occupations for Manor residents: management jobs, office, construction, sales, and transportation. In 2021, we started having conversations about the city's needs, and how council members and city staff could be more involved in the greater community beyond the city of Manor. And so we started participating a lot more in Texas Municipal League. We started learning from our colleagues in other cities. And right around 2023, we not only participated in policy design for Texas Municipal League that they would go to the Capitol to advocate for, we actually created our first ever legislative agenda. And we were so proud. We took the document, the one pager Mr. Jones made, and we were down at the Capitol and we were advocating, communicating, one, that Manor has arrived and we're looking to move forward in building key relationships that we knew were going to be necessary to move obstacles out of our way down the line. So this is a glimpse of the 2025 document that's been updated from the 2023. And I think it's important to note that some of the things will probably never come off the list, because it's going to take a long time for us to change minds and mindsets in regards to getting funding where funding needs. And so when you see, education or workforce or healthcare or water, wastewater, those things are going to probably be there for a while. and for our specific area, because we're competing against the greater Texas area to get those resources here for our city. But I did want to spend some time to kind of talk about, not necessarily saying that what we did made these things pass, but to show that we participated in the process of some of these things being passed, but also so that you know some of the results of the things that we were advocating for alongside some of the key stakeholders in our community. And so you can see that we were supportive of economic development and the JEDI grant, which helps to ensure that we can do our I think that's our new 380 agreements, so that we can work with partners to help them jumpstart their opportunities in our city. Travis County is not necessarily a legislative agenda, but we did speak and support that with the school district and others in regards to our concern that we have been talking about for many years, safe after school programming with Commissioner Trevelyan. That passed, and I'm happy to say that the school district is actually working hand in hand with entities that are providing those services for our kids in the city. These things were passed, but I want to disclaimer. What we want to see happen with public education is a ton of money going in that's unrestricted funds, so that the leaders that are hired and contracted to lead the school districts can do what they need to do, use the expertise to take care of our children. 21st century infrastructure, we're seeing some moves that are happening to provide resources for parks, water, wastewater, and those sorts of things. And we need to continue to advocate for those things. But mostly we need to advocate that the tools that are used to rank communities of high needs, that those tools are connected to those who are making funding allocations, so that we can make sure that we're getting access to those funds and resources. And then again, we heard from conversations with our sister cities, brother cities, specifically in Austin, about the need to promote life sciences. And so we've had that conversation with the city of Austin, Mayor Watson. He's talked about it a few times. And so we're definitely making sure that we're in line with the jobs and employment opportunities within the region. So what next? The first one is never going to come off the list until we have a check by that one, and that's sales taxes. We have to have a conversation with our legislators in regards to old policies and laws that are negatively impacting the work that we're trying to do. One of the things that we did in 2021 was I got a chance to sit down with the former commissioner at Texas Workforce Commission, Aaron Demerson, and we talked about, and a few folks with the the governor's economic development team. And we talked about the key financial tools that a city needs to thrive. And when you have those financial tools, you'll be able to move the needle and invest in the key programs and things that you need to invest in, so that you can have the affordability, have the public transportation tools, fix the roads, and those sorts of things that you need to do. Invest in small businesses, nonprofits, programs for after school care and summer programs. And that's just your sales tax. 1985, if you've heard my speeches, you probably heard me say this once before. In 1985, we made a decision as a community to vote into sales tax arrangements. And we were very, very, very small population. You can remember that timeline that I showed earlier. We were not 21,500 people. And we made a decision in 1985 to give a portion of our sales taxes to support some specific public transportation needs or emergency service needs later on when we made those votes. We've grown. We're a fast growing city, and we need to have a conversation as a community about what do we need right now, so that we can move our city forward. And so we have to have that conversation about sales taxes. We want to continue to advocate for local authority, municipality freedom, and operational flexibility when it comes to economic development tools. And then we also want to have some help with affordability. The key thing when it comes down to ensuring that we can build a home that's affordable for single families or two-parent family incomes that are still struggling to pay for a home is the land and infrastructure costs. And if we can get support in those areas, we'll be able to actually put a nice product on the ground for our families. So we'll continue to advocate in those areas to fill that missing middle. Again, unrestricted funds in public education, and then funds to continue to support the healthcare needs in this region. And we've made some huge strides since 2021, 2023 agenda with St. David's moving into the area and providing very, very high quality services and on right here off of 290. But there's more that we have to do, not only for the city of Manning, but for the entire region. You may not know, or you may know, hopefully you all know because it's been some time. We worked for a while and put together a comprehensive plan. And in this comprehensive plan, you'll find this document in there where it's a quick summary in regards to some feedback from our residents and things that they wanted to prioritize. And I wanted to bring this document because as I go through the highlights, some of the highlights of the department, you'll see a connection between what residents are asking us to do and what the city is focusing time and attention on. And so quickly, you can see here, I know the print is small, so I'll read a few of them. The first one says, need for fresh and healthy food options. Revitalization of downtown. Let's see, I'm gonna jump to local retail and hiring locally, improve sidewalk and bike lanes, and increase access to natural spaces, and then some park needs. And so what we have here under the area infrastructure is time and attention that's been going towards those areas. So everyone's always asking about 973, everyone's always asking about 290. Well, one of the things that I'm going to spend some more detailed time on transportation, but we secured a commitment for 973 for a feasibility for 973 feasibility study with TxDOT and CTMRA. And so these are things that are going to help move the process down the line so that we can have improvements on that road. US 290 corridor study with CTMRA. These are things that are crucial foundational pieces for getting a highway through the area. Solar lights, lighting at the 4 parks, sidewalk connections from Ring Drive to Ring Road, reclaimed water field additions, $312 million in new taxable income that comes into the area, 362 new residential units, 3 multifamily projects, 2 emergency services facilities, and new businesses that are coming. Small Sliders, Golden Chick for those of you who have been wanting a chicken place or don't want to drive to Elgin, James Avery, Ulta, Midas, Dollar Tree, and a lot more. So I think this says it all when it comes to the hard work of our economic director, development director, city manager, and the city staff in regards to hearing a call and answering a call. And so that first bullet talked about healthy food choices. And so this year we got a chance to do grand opening for our Manor HEB, and our first Manor HEB number 2 is on the way. They don't know it yet, but they know that it's on the way. We've already told them. 32 new businesses, 1,250 jobs in counting. So we're talking about how we employing locally, 1,250 jobs. And we're just talking about this year. And of course, these are some national chains that are first major construction retailer in regards to Home Depot, first major clothes retailer in regards to the TJ Maxx's and the Burlingtons and so forth, 24-hour diner, the Waffle House, and so we've talked about council going after these late meetings. We might just go out to Waffle House and have a breakfast, get in the St. David's room, and some branding. Uh, we heard for many years the need for us to have improved communication, and we talked about two-way communication, multi-language, but we also talk about telling our story. And so we've been able to hire a marketing coordinator who's been out doing a lot of work to brand and help us with communicating to the public. And then Mr. Davis is here in the audience, and so we've actually jump started the work in our downtown revitalization planning with his three-story multi-use facility right over there outside from City Hall. And now there's more buildings that are coming, and so between that, his development, a few other developments, and our downtown revitalization plan, master plan, that's going to that has a TERS that's going to do about $40 million of reinvestment in this downtown Old Town Manor. We are putting our money where our mouth is and supporting the different things that the residents have asked us to do. One of the other things we were talking about in regards to talking with Chief Phillips some years back was how can we incentivize our city staff and folks to live here and work here. And when we start talking about the cost and increasing costs of rent, we decided to put our name in the hat and create a PFC so that we could build a facility where we could help to control the rents and create affordability for our residents. And so the Avalon, that's about a half a mile or so from here, is actually a city property that we're able to incentivize residents to come and live at by providing a lower income, using their lower income for a rate reduction. Little known fact, because I don't think I read this anywhere on social media, but we did acquire the Carrie Manor house, which has ties to the history of the city of Manor. And we have some ideas about how that property is going to be used. And then we have an awesome trash service, because I know that people talk about the fact that you can get bulk pickup pretty much whenever you want it in Manor. And so our team is working hard. Last thing on the TERS, again, when you don't have your financial tools, it's awesome to be able to have intelligent folks on your staff that can come together and brainstorm and work around obstacles to get to the solutions we need. And so this TERS does about 2,900 acres. And what it would do is, I think it's going to bring in the potential of $91 million investment in that 2,900 acres. And so that's money that doesn't come from anyone's. That's not a tax increase. That's nothing. That's us using the TERS to, as it's intended, to invest back and build and invest in something that's going to have a huge return for the city. And as you know, we're always pushing for engagement. And so I'm definitely happy about the numbers that we've seen in the increase in our community engagement activities, specifically our events, in regards to seeing more events that are averaging over 2,000 participants. Another highlights from the year, our police department. Again, we talk about the best type of community is a community where the police officers get to have fun with the community versus having to arrest them all the time. And so I'm thankful that they're very proactive and they're building programs in the community, 92 community events. And we do have a lot of traffic stops, but I think that's because people are driving through. We're just going to say that they're driving through. And so definitely thankful for the team, and the victim services is out there supporting families as they're navigating trauma. So 280 victims have been served. And then internship program was established, and I believe we have our first person that's gone through the program. So awesome. We have our youth advisory committee, and you may not know this, but is Matt here? Yeah, there he is. Matt Woodard came from Pflugerville, and he brought in the program where we recruit students to come in and get skilled trades in the water certificate. Which one? What is it? de-water operator. And so we definitely are excited about those opportunities where people can, our students, our young people can go through the training with the city, but then, and then also be hired. And I think we had a hire in the recent class. General fund revenue increases, and again, this is all about the hard work that's been done. Our everything that we're doing is being strategic. We have a long list of things that we need to do, but we're trying to do our best to be strategic and prioritizing the things that are going to not only meet a need but also bring in the revenue so that we can meet in more needs as we're moving down the line. Current challenges and opportunities ahead. You know, at the road. Roads are always going to be that, and I want to move through it, but uh, again, you see in the bold, sales taxes. If you don't walk away from anything with anything in your mind, understand that sales taxes and our access to sales taxes is crucial for our future. Budget constraints, same thing. And when we're talking about how to allocate and build new departments, make those necessary investments over time, you have to have full access to all of your financial tools so that you can do those things. And so many years ago, we saw, if you look at history and timelines, so many cities made financial decisions with the things they voted in and the things they voted out so that they could have all of their economic development tools. And when we did not do that, growth started happening to us. And we weren't able to participate like we needed to because we didn't have the tools in the suitcase, in our toolbox, to be able to respond to those things. So it's crucial that we understand those things and that we act aggressively so that we can get on top of those things. Challenges. Here's the one that I think everybody that's maybe watching from Stream World is going to be excited to talk about. This is our thoroughfare map. And just quick, because I know those are pretty small and we're posted so that you can see the slide deck later on. But all the dotted lines are a collection of roads that are somewhere between county or the state for future or consideration for future development. If these things are funded and done, you'll notice we'll have more ways to go north and south, and we'll have more ways to go east and west, which would take off the congestion on 290 and 973. These are the conversations that we want to empower the community about so that they know, one, how to find the resources, who to contact and who to talk to so that they can intelligently and adequately advocate for the changes that we need. One of the tools that I spent some time learning, because I wanted to make sure that I gave you the tools and the links. And so when we get this out there to you, there's links that are also available for the slide deck. There's a state tracker, and the state tracker allows you to click on regions or cities and actually see all the projects that are happening in the state of Texas regarding roads. In this tracker, you can click on there and you can find all the details that you need to find out about a road project that's happening. You can find the description, you click on the links, and then it'll start giving you more specific information. There's some specific ones I'm bringing up because I know we've talked about some things at council, because every metroplex has an entrance into their city. And if you look at all these metroplexes in the state of Texas, you see economic development that begins outside of the city, to the point to where many of you all, if you were to drive to Houston to Dallas, you kind of, or even Fort Worth or San Antonio, is kind of like, I'm trying to figure out when I'm actually entering the city limits. You're in all those smaller cities before you actually enter the city, and you see hospitals, you see office buildings, you see retail, you see all sorts of things that are happening at the gateway on these major thoroughfares. Our job is to work together as a community to bring awareness to our legislators, to those that are on the transportation committee, and say, hey, what do we need to do so the gateway into our capital is economically viable, that is thriving. And so we have a lot of money that's going on the southwestern end of 290. One of the projects here, $643 million. How do we get that type of investment or more on the eastern end of 290? And you think about it, there's no major metroplex between the southwest end of Austin and anything far west. But actually on 290 between Austin and Houston, those are two major metroplexes. You want to invest in those areas because that's where you have the most travel. And so our job is to educate the community so that we can go and we can have the conversations to advocate for those things. And I put this one up here for multiple reasons because it's 290, but also because I want everyone to understand that it does not happen overnight. They started this process in 1988. Now, that's a whole nother conversation that we probably want to have with TxDOT about efficiencies and how to move the needle look a little bit quicker. But they started this process in 1988. And so getting highway improvements, when we have those opportunities to get a solution, we want to make sure that we take those opportunities, because when it passes, it may not come back around for a long time. So we're looking at 25 years when they actually went to the community to have the conversation. We're in a situation now where our plans are not actually on the Capital Metro plan. The Campo plan. So our highway extension pieces are not on the Campo plan. So we actually have to get that on the it's Campo, right? The 2050 plan, so that it can even be a consideration. The longer it takes to get on that plan, the further we're out from getting a free highway solution. And let me also highlight on this one as well. In there, when you click on these links, it'll take you through that timeline, and you'll see that they started off with TxDOT. The project stalled. They went to CTRMA. They came in, did the feasibility study, and then did all that front work. And then TxDOT came back in and took it over and started working to fund and do a lot of those free pieces. And so just because we're working to get a solution with one entity up front doesn't mean it will end that way, because it doesn't always end that way. It could definitely end with the extension of the toll through Elgin, or it could end with a free highway. Our job is to ensure that something happens, that we no longer have this congestion. So another thing to point out about that area, part of that piece, reason why they were, why it was a major focus, is because they actually have a top 100 list. I never knew that, but they actually have a top 100 congested, what's actually name? Yeah, top 100 congested road segments. And that there's a part of that area that was ranked 45 in the state of Texas. So that's why that one jumped, because we didn't know. I didn't know. And I was like, how did that smaller? They had less traffic counts. How did they jump before us? Well, they were number 45 on the congestion list. And here's important data I think that we can use for talking points when we go in to advocate, because they track the delay time over a year, 1.3 million hours of delay, $36 million of congestion costs because you're losing that fuel and that time. These are numbers that are important that we can be able to go and have conversations with, especially when you talk about how long the delays have been going on, how long the traffic has been there. And so I pulled our numbers because I wanted to know where we were ranking it over the last few years. And so this tool appears to have been created in 2019. And you can see where our leg of 290 has been 144, then 152, then 116. Then in 2022 and 2023, we were in the top 100. Now we're at 101. They haven't done 2025 yet. But you can see here, it shows us these are kind of those, I don't know the technical name of it, but basically where the maroon is where the traffic is worse. So, and I think we can all agree 3 to 7 p.m. on a Friday is when you do not want to be on 290 in Manor. But we have some pretty much, that's pretty much spot on. 6 to 8 and 4 to 6, you're going to experience traffic. This one also talks about the average speed during those time periods, and so we're seeing speed drop down to about 30 or 40 miles per hour during those peak time periods. And then this one actually covers the delays of average delay in hours. And so you see an increase in hours being delayed. And then here's our numbers right here. So our annual cost congestion costs to the community, to the people that are driving through our city annually is $28 million. I think all of us could use an extra $28 million instead of sitting on the highway for less than what was it, 3 mile stretch. So these are the things in the data that we want to definitely take and advocate for. And again, you can see the work that we're trying to do, the stretch of road that CTMRA is doing the feasibility study for. And then here is one of the projects where how they are outlining. And I want to, I don't know if this is going to follow me or not, but I want to come and show you all this. Every project has this status chart. And to have a highway, all of these things, you got to check through these boxes. And so when we talk about the importance of the feasibility study, it's huge because you don't have a feasibility study. You can even do other things around it, but the project's not going to move. So again, when we talk about when you're hearing us say we have a feasibility study, we're doing this, we're investing here or there so that we can get a feasibility study. You can't not move the project without getting that feasibility study. And so it's a very important piece to the puzzle. And so on 973, was happy to find out that they had a tracker for it, and that little arrow, those little arrows right there, that looks like a fast forward button for funding. That means it's in progress. That's a huge positive for us because right now the city is working with the with TxDOT and them to try to get that feasibility study going, and they're already looking for funding. So that means once we get those top checks, that feasibility study done, we can actually start moving forward towards construction. And once we get the final design in the row, I think a lot of that our right of way is acquired. There's little to be done. We can actually get to construction a lot quicker than some of these other projects. Checking my time. All right, we're almost there, y'all. These 4 stars are 4 big impact areas that I think that are crucial to opening up the city of Manor and on the east side. And I was thinking about this slide in those 4 areas and what it means. And I think the best way to explain how important these 4 areas are is to just have you all pause and think back to the anticipation you were having when you heard that HEB was coming and that excitement. And if you can, thinking and recapture those feelings and that excitement, then multiply it by 4. And that's what these 4 impact areas are going to do for the city of Manor. And so that's, I don't want to get into the details of those 4, but I can tell you that the work that our city's doing and our partners that are working with the city those things are going to be as powerful, if not more powerful for our future than HEB. And that's saying a lot. So opportunities there. Everyone's always asking, how are y'all, why we haven't built this yet? Why have we done this one yet? We have a lot of stuff going on, y'all. There's a lot of bond projects going on. We have things that started back in 2012, and we're managing over $200 million of projects and investments. And please understand, growth has happened to us, and we're trying to get ahead of growth. And so what that means is, as we're trying to prioritize the needs of the community, we have to also ensure we're being smart with the projects we bring on, when we bring them on, and how we ensure that one project helps support the other. If we do not do this right, we'll find ourselves in a situation where financially we're in trouble. And that's what we don't want to do. And so we have to keep a lens of fiscal responsibility. We have to keep a lens of, and one of our goals is to be financially to be able to sustain all the things that we put into place. And to do that, we have to not only talk about today and the problems of yesterday, but we have to talk about how we're planning for the future. So we have a lot of conversations, and they're tough conversations. Right. They're tough conversations because we want this and we want it now, just like a lot of folks. But then we have to, after we get through all that, we calm down, we breathe, and we look at what's real, and then we start working on how we're going to move forward. And so there's a lot of different things happening, and I'm excited about it because I think one of the questions that I've always received, or the comments that was out there, was we don't have investment in infrastructure. And so I wanted to make sure that I not only just said it like I normally do in other state or city addresses, but that we're showing that. We have the Hunt Group here, and I can't tell you too much about them because then we'll be here another hour. But I can tell you that they hold us accountable to the work and to the things that are important for our priorities for the upcoming projects that we're doing. And so I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate the tough conversations and you all hanging in there with us. And so we have some images projected. 2027 is the hopeful date of when our first library will be on ground. And it's taken some time, but we are excited about the fact that we did not just build something, but we spent the time to do the research, and we're going to be building something that's not only going to fulfill the legal requirements of the bond request, but it's also going to save the community money, and it's going to have way more built around it for involvement. And so the biggest thing that I wanted to kind of highlight is those guiding principles, and these aren't the specifics. These are just kind of summaries of conversations we've had in workshops, and this is what we charged the Hunt Group with. And these are the conversations we had about the things that was important to us, and they delivered on things well beyond what we were asking the community for. In addition to the library, in addition to the city hall, there's a 4-acre park potentially. There's the outdoor atrium for concerts and events. There's the economic development that will happen around it. There's the residential and all those things that are going to be built into this master design. And because we're leveraging the tools we have to navigate around problems that we can't normally solve because we don't have our sales taxes like we need to have them, we have worked together with great minds to navigate P3 partnerships at the highest level with the Hunt Group. And so I thank you all again. Thank you, Jones, and Moore, for taking us through that process, because what that means is we're not only going to get a high quality product with good programming that takes place in there, we're going to be in a situation where the city that small investment is going to bring the city back millions and millions of dollars for years to come. We're going to make money for the investment, for the money we're investing into our community, and that's a positive. We're going to continue to work to recruit a regional hospital, working on rideshare initiatives so that we can ensure that we're getting within the city like we need to, making sure that everyone has access to get to their specific spaces that is cost effective. Looking for a P3 partnership for indoor sports complex that can also turn to an entertainment venue for concerts. Additional single and multifamily units, regional water treatment plant, regional wastewater treatment plant, and again continue to work through the solutions for TxDOT with TxDOT and CTMRA on 290 and FM 973. Upgrades to our technology, long-term budgeting and planning for staff needs. We've done a lot of work for outward, but now we also need to start looking inward to hiring the necessary key staff positions that are going to move us into the future. Increasing citizen applications and participation on boards and commissions, and then updating our permit software. We have, I think it was several thousand permits that come in annually, and so we need to update our software system to handle the load. continue to replace the water lines in downtown Old Main area. And again, these numbers are the investment dollars that we can invest because we're generating revenue in other parts of the city to help cover the areas down here. And then hopefully this helps, because I know these key streets that the community has been talking about. And so we're going to put in 2 million, 3.7 miles in this year on Jamie Street, Cummins, Timber, and Bodie Arc. So that's going to be, I think, some positive improvements that I hope will get us some smiley faces on social media. Again, one of the big things I want to highlight is us moving to that next level of community involvement. And so Ashland has done a good job of working we don't have a news station, in case you didn't know, but now we have a news station. And so be on the lookout for more of the advertisement. If you wait for someone else to come tell your story, they're going to miss everything that's good. And so we're working to utilize technology and social media and to broadcast our own stories and what's happening in our city on a weekly basis. And we're involving community partners in that process. So thank you all for doing that. These are next in 26, diving into our park plans, our hike bike trails, continue to work on those drainage plans, and then surveying for the community for programming ideas. These are the last few things before I move to my close, as the preachers would say. I told you I've been doing a lot of research. There are some cities out there that are thriving, and they're thriving because they've taken the accountability to another level. And what they've done is they've used a lot of different systems, and they've created a scorecard of key areas. And in this scorecard, they've worked with key stakeholders or departments. And what they do is they develop the criteria, and then they create a mechanism so that they can evaluate those criteria annually so that the city knows how it's doing in all of these key areas. And so I want to work with our key stakeholders and city staff so that we can build a performance scorecard so that we can have the quantitative data to show how well we are actually doing in our community. The other thing is workforce development. A couple of council members and I, we were in TML in Fort Worth, and we was talking about it's time to go ahead and start talking about workforce business support and workforce development. And I think it's an area that's definitely that we need to dive into, not only for the community, but also so that it can be a support arm for the school district and the work that they're trying to do with the young people. And so now it's time to again do the same thing, get those key stakeholder groups and start working to establish a workforce advisory committee, and then work to a multi-year plan so that we have workforce development in our city. And then, that got changed up a little bit. Better Together. So if you're not following on social media, I'll go ahead and tell you, we have launched what's called the Better Together campaign. And it's the Mayor Challenge. You earn a challenge coin. And this challenge and the philosophy behind it is, if I am a good neighbor, if I'm a good person and I become a good neighbor, and my neighbor is a good person, it becomes a good neighbor, eventually the people on our streets will become good neighbors, and we'll have a good street, and then we'll have multiple good streets, and then we have a very, very good community. We'll be better together. And so this idea is incentivizing what we say is important to us. We rebranded, and the first word in MVP4 is people. So we're going to incentivize people that take care of people. And the Better Together campaign, and I thank our council members for supporting this initiative, is about us doing 7 tasks over 12 months on our street. 7 tasks on your street with your local neighbors. And at the end of the year, you turn it in and you get the Mayor's Challenge coin. Simple. You be a good neighbor. You help others, help other neighbors be good neighbors, and we want to honor you and celebrate you here at City Council or anywhere else we can, because that's how important it is for us to be good people and to be neighborly in our city. Neighborly and safe people, again, make it easier for our hardworking police officers. So we want to be neighborly, and we want to do that. Call to action. We have a very young community. We need everyone to get registered to vote, and we need folks to go out and vote when it's time to vote. We need to actively bring people together to help educate folks so they are aware and understand what's on the ballot, so we're not making decisions out of emotions or out of fear, but we're making decisions about our future, but not just our future, but our children's and our children's future. We have to start doing that now, and we have to actively participate in the awareness and the education campaign for voter education. We need to advocate for the road improvements, and just be kind and courteous when you're driving. Um, all these accidents on 290 is because we're not patient, and we're rushing, and we're yelling at each other, and just if we choose to be kind, courteous, and focused, attentive, patient, and respectful driver, we can cut down on some of those accidents. And it sounds crazy to have a mayor saying that at a city address, but the amount of accidents and the amount of lives that are lost in Manor on the highway because we weren't patient is too many. We need to start being courteous and kind. Last, I want to end with this. I kind of hinted at this last year, and I'm just going to dive in a little bit deeper. No one believes that Manor can do what Manor is going to do. There's just a few of us that when we get together, we have faith and we believe that we can be the model community. My council members are not the city staff. I know that you all believe, but nobody really believes that this city can be a beacon of light and a beacon of hope. And I say that because I remember when I first became mayor, Jones and Moore and I, it was in Dallas. We went to economic development conference, and there was all these firms there, and we was like, hey, this was early, this 2021, and we was there, and we had all the flash drives, and we was like, hey, Maine is going to be the spot. You need to invest. And it was like, nah, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Had the data, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. And that's always been the response. Not gonna happen. You're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get that. What people have failed to realize is this is not about me. It's not about the council members. It's not about the city staff. There's a divine plan for the city of Manor. And none of us can stop it. We can choose to participate in it and reap the benefits because we participate in it. But there is a divine calling on this city and for the folks that choose to be here to do that work. I just want to make sure that we're clear about that. The successes we're having is not because, we're all so wise. There's a lot of prayer and consideration that goes into this thing. And because we're doing that, and because we didn't choose to be obedient about it, this city is thriving. And I'm not trying to be proselytized to anyone. I just need you to understand what we do behind the closed doors and what we do up in front and how we get to where we're getting. And you don't have to believe it. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Just want you to understand that there's not a lot of folks that believe that we're going to make the goals and the milestones that we're setting. And that's fine. That is completely fine. We will invite you to the celebration every time we reach one of those goals and every time we hit one of those milestones. Manor is on the move. We are better together. We're going to continue to build Manor strong. I thank you all for being patient with me and for hearing what is on the heart for our council members and for our staff. Thank you, and God bless. Good night. Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:17 p.m. Announced that a quorum is present. Call to order the City Council regular meeting. We're going to begin with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. During our invocation, Pastor.
Let us pray. Most holy and righteous Father, creator of the universe, we thank you now, Lord, for what is about to take place. We thank you, Father, for just being who you are in our lives. We ask that you would bless this meeting. We thank you, Father, for making this city already a city of faith. We ask that you bless this council, give them the wisdom that they need to run this city. Thank you, Lord, for all those who are present. Just have your way tonight, Father. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. All right, Council, first up on our agenda is we have a presentation. As you all know, in addition to the work we've been doing for community engagement and for marketing, we started up the Manor Business Spotlight. And so for our presentation for tonight, Ms. Ashton Tully has a presentation for our business that was selected.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Manor Business Spotlight Award, a monthly recognition program I created in November to highlight locally owned businesses that make a positive impact in our community. I will present this award to the respective recipient at the first City Council meeting each month. What makes this award special is that the businesses are nominated directly by Manor residents, giving our community the chance to celebrate the places they value most. Tonight, we're excited to recognize Manor Beauty Block as the January Manor Business Spotlight Award recipient. Residents have shared wonderful things about this business, praising its welcoming and friendly environment, the professionalism of its staff, and the genuine care they show to every customer. These qualities truly make Manor Beauty Block stand out as a place that contributes positively to our community. Owned by Ebony Hardman, Manor Beauty Block exemplifies the spirit of local entrepreneurship here in Manor. We're excited to recognize her and her team this evening by presenting the Manor Business Spotlight Award recipient. Miss Ebony Hardman is present today. Miss Hardman, if you would please join us up front, we'll take a photo with the Mayor and City Council and present you with your award. Okay.
Congratulations again. All right, council members, we got our next agenda item is public comments. We have 3 public comments today. And just a reminder to our guests, non-agenda item public comments are on the white card. These comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. Agenda items will be on the yellow card, and those items, will be for a combined time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items, except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made within the item when the item comes before the council, and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by council during public comments or on non-agenda items. First up for 3 minutes is Mr. Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I appreciate some of your speech, but I really think we're living in a different town. You talk about a parks master plan. We don't have a parks master plan. You talk about how wonderful HEB is, but you didn't mention we gave them $20 million. You talked about ride shares. Can you get Cap Metro to run on the weekend, maybe? We pay them 1 cent of the 8-cent sales tax on the weekend, but they don't run. That's a deceptive business practice. So you want us to be a good neighbor? Maybe you should put something in the park so people have a reason to go out and talk to each other. There's nothing for anyone to do anywhere in town. You practically destroyed the bocce ball court. I started a league in 2009. It has 600 people playing now. That's what we should have. I'm talking 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I had a free disc golf course, me and 2 other guys ready to put in at Timmerman Park, and you refused it. So when you say you're a beacon of light, that's a total bunch of baloney. I do kind of agree that there is a divine plan, but you guys don't have a clue as to what it is. I gave you a chance to be a statewide leader to get rid of corruption in Texas, to get rid of the courts of no record. But you didn't have what it takes to stand up. That's corruption, hundreds of years of corruption in Texas. You could have been a statewide, you could have launched your political career. We also have another corruption vehicle, and that's having the city attorney as the prosecutor for the court. Do you think she'll ever bring a charge against any of you? Well, so far she hasn't. I filed 36 municipal court complaints, Class C misdemeanors, because you guys basically are running a racketeering city. This is a RICO town. You got the corrupt cops in bed with the corrupt city attorney. We got the city secretary hiding information, and Mr. City Manager going along with it. I asked for a copy of the GPR map that you guys approved $32,500 for. This Mr. Policeman here, he can't find it. And then he disparages me to Travis County. You told a bunch of lies, sir. I don't appreciate being lied to.
Mr. Bataille,
Pardon me?
once I pause your time, remember you're addressing council. So
Say that again.
You're addressing council, so let's not talk about staff members. You can say what you want to say about us, but you're addressing
I can
council.
talk about the staff if I feel like it.
Again,
Right?
we're gonna no. You can follow our decorum, and it's
Decorum, you're putting townhomes on graves and you want to tell me about decorum?
I'm not here to argue with you. I can have you here and let you finish your 30 seconds. I'm just asking you to address your comments and concerns with city council. Say
My
whatever
comments and concern included staff members.
that's
correct?
Your warning.
Pardon me?
That is your warning. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, this whole nonsense about the TERS and you talking about the great stuff and all that. TERS 2 committee, guess who the committee is? It's the city council. Guess who TERS 2 reports to? The city council. This is a giveaway to Pete Dwyer. There's nothing blighted about over there. Nothing at all. These TERS things, that's another Class C misdemeanor. The fines are up to $500. We've got 36 of these stacked up. And I guarantee you the judge is not going to play patsy with you guys, okay?
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Mr. Travis Taylor. And you have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As a new resident of Manor, I have some issues when it comes to public safety. Most of these issues have to do with traffic enforcement laws. There's been issues where I live off of Skimmer Run and Ring Road where we're getting people that are blowing right through stop signs. There's a new bus stop that stops right there in the morning, picks up the kids. They have people running that right through that stop sign, not even yielding to the buses. Sorry, I'm a little agitated right now. The speeding in that area is at 35 miles an hour going through a park. Okay? I'm a disabled veteran. It takes me quite a while to walk around a park with my dog. Just trying to cross the street, and there's signs at those cross stops where it says that vehicles must stop if people are there. I've actually seen police officers bust through it when I'm trying to cross through there as well. The speeding in this area is outrageous. I think we need to take a look at our speeding regulations, especially on 290, because it's not a highway. It is in a way, but once we get into city limits, we have people that are speed limits that are about 60 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour going towards McDonald's. That's way too fast for all these lights, traffics, and everything. I'm on a motorcycle too, and just basic turning, I'm almost getting crushed because people are running red lights. Traffic is not being enforced. According to your statement earlier, you said you had over 10,000 traffic violations. That's not enough. We need to get down on this. My next concern has to do with, once again, dealing with the traffic and everything, road construction as well. I know you emphasized quite a bit on that, Mayor. I appreciate it. Some of the main issues that I also want to bring up is we're putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. We just painted, I don't know how much that cost, but we just painted lines on a road that's all destroyed up there on Greg Manor by the school. But yet, when I'm on the motorcycle, I feel like I'm going to tip off into the side because we are not doing anything about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Greg Brown.
I thought I put a line item, agenda item on mine.
Are you regular comments, agenda item comments?
I just did yellow, 2 yellow ones.
Yeah, that comes up still now during the public comments, but you get 5 minutes. All the comments come up to right now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I just say what item is for?
Well, you get 5 minutes for 4 and 6.
Okay, great. In regards to item number 4, which is my understanding is a installation of a turn lane for Monarch Ranch. This kind of goes in line with the previous speaker where we're putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. A turn lane is great there, but I just want to offer my perspective as a driver in Manor. When we provide access to these neighborhoods, obviously we need to provide access to the residents. You know, that's a no-brainer. But when we do so, we're also encouraging people to cut through our neighborhoods. And the people that don't live in our neighborhoods don't respect our neighborhoods. You know, we have this problem on Paseo de Presidente, Ring Road. I think Lagos has the issue. I think, you know, Shadow Glen probably does as well, Shadow Glen Boulevard. We're encouraging people to go into our neighborhoods where they're in a rush, they want to get home, you know, least resistance, and they're going well over the speed limit. I think people have been clocked at 40 on Paseo de Presidente. There's 2 bus stops that are on that road, I think 3 with the private charter schools. So the main point I want to make is a turn lane's great and a turn lane's necessary, but we need to think larger. We need to think about these bullet wounds. We need to fix the intersection of Greg Lane and 290 so that people don't feel like they have to cut through a neighborhood speeding to get home. We need to improve the main thoroughways that you know, we mentioned in the state of the city. And yeah, that's all I want to say is just be cognizant of what may seem like a turn lane and access to a neighborhood. In some people's mind, it becomes a cut through or here's how I get home faster, and potentially, you know, a lot of those drivers are making it unsafe for pedestrians and other people in that neighborhood. In regards to number 6, this kind of goes in line, so I'll just combine them. $800,000 was sent into the state. My impression is we're trying to get them to push along on 973. Looking at the budget for that project is well over $500 million. $800,000 is a drop in the bucket. I just think that we can better utilize that on our own streets, whether it be Greg Lane, Tower Road, something else within our city. I think we can better utilize those funds. Even if not roads, parks have been mentioned. I just feel like there's other needs for that money. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. All right, council, we're now going to move down to our consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on items unless requested by the mayor or a council member, in which items will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Number 1, consideration, discussion, possible action on approval of council minutes. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Regular agenda item number 2, first reading, consideration, discussion, possible action regarding ordinance rezoning one lot on 2.786 acres, more or less, and being TCAT parcel 236902, also known as 12725 U.S. Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from A, agriculture to IN1, light industrial. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, my name is Michael Burrell, Development Services Director for the City of Maynard. This item was brought to you at the last council meeting in the attempt to discern what the best zoning as presented to you is for this property. We were informed to try to come back with some additional information or some sort of consensus as to what would be the best zoning. And upon working with Carson, who is here tonight, in case there are additional questions, he is agreeable that C3 heavy commercial with the list of uses removed is acceptable for the parcel. We also determined that transportation terminal was not a necessary use for it, as that typically refers to like bus stations, train stops, airports, and even with that, they're restricted to be no closer than 1,000 feet to a residential district. And of course, New Katy is next door, so it wouldn't be very useful land use, even if it was permitted.
Council members, do you have any questions? I know that, thank you all for doing that work and bringing back those answers. Is everybody, have your answers to the questions from last meeting? Any additional questions for Mr. Burrell or the guests? Are you ready for more information or ready for a vote? I'll take questions or a motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of an ordinance rezoning one lot on 2.786 acres, more or less, in being TCAD parcel 236902, also known as 12725 U.S. Highway 290, Maynard, Texas, from agricultural to C3 heavy commercial, with the suggested uses removed from the allowed uses list.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Randall. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any additional questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Council members, I need a motion for number 3 to postpone to February the 4th.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone item number 3 to February the 4th, you said?
Yes.
Regular city council meeting.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Rayner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? No questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4. consideration, discussion, and possible action on Monarch Ranch at Manor LLC Development TIA phasing agreement. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, as it's stated, this is a TIA phasing agreement with Monarch Ranch. It contemplates adding a right turn lane into the subdivision, as well as financial contributions that are also able to be used for Greg Lane or other improvements as necessary.
Questions, council members?
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Monarch Ranch at Manor LLC Development TIA phasing agreement.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mesquite. Questions to the motion? In this particular case, because we had a question about it during the public comments, you want to provide some clarity in regards to how TIAs are found or developed and the information that comes along with that and why what's proposed is proposed.
Yes, sir. For traffic impact analysis in general, they're required if a certain amount of trips per day are exceeded, in this instance, 2,500. And they essentially study the existing traffic flows, what the subdivision or project will bring, and how they need to accommodate that. So for this phasing agreement in particular, there are multiple subdivisions that are actually contributing to Greg Lane and the infrastructure that currently exists, be it New Haven, Monarch Ranch. So this TIA phasing agreement is their portion of it, and it also includes financial contributions that can be used in conjunction with the other subdivision contributions as well.
Can you also speak to, I guess, the work or who's responsible in regards to those any intersection changes with 290, just so that we're providing that information for our guests.
290?
I'm sorry, 973.
My apologies. Being as 973, that's part of the TI phasing agreement, and it references in the summary that they're also making contributions with TxDOT to kind of account for those traffic signalizations as well as any other improvements. Something to note with the money that's being contributed both with TxDOT and us, these funds can be used at the council's discretion to fund necessary projects. And there are studies that have been completed, including this one, that kind of indicate where our choke points and pain areas are. And with that information, upon council direction, staff can come back with recommended projects that can alleviate some of the major concerns that have been presented or contemplated. And it's not limited to just this pool of money. There are, as I said, other subdivisions that are making contributions and improvements along this roadway specifically. They can also be considered when making these improvements.
But anything done along 973, that would be TxDOT, right?
Yes, that's not ours.
Yeah, I think that's what I was wanting you just kind of to communicate and share out that it's those required improvements come from TxDOT, and that's versus us wanting to, since it's their road, have those improvements from there. I just wanted to make sure that you had that piece. Other, did we list of is this just coming from the general fund or BCT? Developer?
This is being
it's all
paid to
developer.
us.
Okay, all right. No other questions, council members? We have a motion on the floor. If there's no additional questions, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, consideration, discussion, possible action regarding the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute settlement and release agreement between the city and JM Pipeline related to the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen lift station improvements for the city of Manor, and release the funds thereafter. Is that that's you, Veronica? Oh, it's Frank. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is a proposed agreement for the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen lift station projects. Due to a number of factors, the contractor's delivery time ran past the performance period specified in the contract documents, and there were provisions in the agreement for liquidated damages to cover associated costs with the performance that exceeded the performance period. And so these amounts have been negotiated between the city staff, city attorney, and the contractor, and are proposed for your consideration.
Frank, how did you guys arrive at that sum?
That amount was established based upon the established completion date that was in the contract documents, and when they actually achieved what's called substantial completion, which was effectively when the city has beneficial use of the facility. So it was basically the time between when they were supposed to have it functional for the city and when it was actually functional and met the criteria for operations. And so it's an amount per day for every day of that occurring.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
What process changes are being implemented to prevent similar disputes?
We've done a number of things with regard to contractor coordination and so forth. This particular project, we encountered a lot of difficulties. Some contractor related, some related to groundwater. We had a lot of issues with groundwater and completing it on time. I'm very happy that this is the proposed solution, given all of the challenges that were faced during the course of this project. I will say it was the most challenging one I've had in my entire career of administering construction contracts.
Yes, sir. I say, Mayor, Council, getting to this point, working with staff and even the contractor's attorney, we realize that for the sake of the project, it's done, but we realize with the contract that it's approved and the language that was in there required us to follow that and not want to penalize him, but there are certain things that were missed. There are certain things that we had to document to reach that point. So overall, there was like $99,000 that was left of that. $28,000 the city was going to retain, and that was part of that. So we want to make sure the public knows that with these contracts, we will, hold contractors responsible and accountable for that. So when there's change orders, we come back and forth and seek that. But when it gets to the liquidated side, we make sure a contractor has every right to remedy the project and close it out accordingly. And when they don't, then that's when these things are in place. So like Frank said, I've been in some myself, and when it gets to the point where you have to go this route, you still want the project to be complete, but you still want to make sure we get something in return. And the return is that we are able to reach this point and close it out with their attorney and our attorney acknowledging this is the best way to go without going before a judge or jury.
Frank, how many more projects do we have with this particular company?
We have no other projects with this particular company.
This is it, the last.
This was the first time that we had worked with the particular contractor too.
All right, thank you.
Under that business.
Right, thank you.
Other questions, comments? I'll take questions, comments, or a motion.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2026-01, authorizing the mayor to execute the settlement and release agreement by and between the city and JM Pipeline related to the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen lift station improvements and payment of the retainage currently held by the city in the amount of $76,767.71 to JM Pipeline.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on the advanced funding agreement for volunteer local government contributions to transportation improvement projects with no required match on system. Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, the item before you is the advanced funding agreement that TxDOT is requesting us to support. This will allow the 973 North study to resume. There were efforts back in 24. The project had started, funding got pulled, and so the project was in limbo. On the Williamson County side from Samsung, this is do the work for 973 all the way up to the Samsung plant. Their part was done, and so it left us, the Manor section or Travis County section, in limbo. And there was enough interest and pull working with Campo, kind of like what you talked about earlier, how some projects have to get on the list. If we wouldn't have pushed, this project probably would have been stalled even longer. And so the fact that we were able to get Campo and TxDOT to agree and our contribution to allow this project to get to 90% complete will allow us to be in a position to seek funding once all the design is done. And so the goal of this is to make sure we as a city know that there's some improvements along 973, Suncrest, Shadow Glen Trace. All those intersections will be studied, so some of those improvements, Greg Lane, can be improved with the design. And then there would be a public engagement piece where the citizens will be able to come and share their input with the design. And that's why the feasibility needs to get scheduled, get done, so that way there would be an opportunity for citizens to provide their input and then allow us to be able to have a final design that's going to be acceptable to our residents, but to TxDOT to actually support the project when money's available. And so the request for tonight is for the council to support this and allow the project to take place. They said it's going to take about 18 months to 2 years to do all the study from basically 290 all the way up to Samsung. And so it's going to take a little time, but the biggest part is to make sure we get started.
Is this the one that's from BCTG funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And no, a reason why I wanted to ask that question is I think one of the requests was in regards to a better use of the funds. And so our BCT funds are funds that can only be used for roadway improvements. And so there's nowhere we can shift that. The return on the investment is one of the conversations we like to have a lot in regards to what happens if we invest, or what happens on 973 if we were to see that project go through. And so we're in one of those crucial time periods that you all recall where years ago when it was let the road go through or let the toll stop. And, you know, we delayed, and so it ended where it ends. And now we have the congestion issues. And I think as we did talk about in the state of city, when I was going through and seeing that research, and we have been having these conversations, that was one of the things that I saw was that this is the only thing that's going to stop that road from actually happening. So what could happen is we would stay with the narrow road from Manor all the way to Williamson County line. And then Williamson County would then open up if they were to proceed without this. And they would have what they need for that portion of their area. And so we don't want to have that same thing happen on that area. And so I think, I hope that answers the questions that came out there. It's one of those things where the whole thing a delay, but the return on investment for all the future development that'll happen at Valorem and future sales tax and growth for the city down 973. Plus, I think we stated 12,000 count. It's actually up to 18,000. And in some areas, 18,548 cars. Other areas, depending on where it's collecting from neighborhoods, it's 20,751. So it's almost double what it was. And that was a quick turnaround because the previous, I think, traffic count report, I think a year ago, it was 12. 23 was 4. I think it reports a year behind. 2023 was 12. 24 is now almost at an average of over 20,000. depending on the points.
And I think, Mayor, what they'd indicated too is that the traffic with Samsung and then the other investment they're going to make at the plant up there could see traffic exceeding about 60,000 cars a day just on 973 alone, north of 290. And so we know what we have at 290, 973 is about 60. Now imagine the north-south. So, and we are meeting regularly with TxDOT. We've had a meeting today, and we're going to have another meeting, I think, scheduled in March, just to make sure all the projects that they have for Manor we're aware of, but we can also talk about our growth and all the safety improvements that need to be made on their system. So just meeting with them regularly is a plus, whereas before we were always a day late, $1 short. And that's been the fate of Manor, a day late, $1 short. And so for us not to be late, we have to put some money into the game so that way we can have some say with the outcomes that our residents seeing that we're fighting and advocating for. So the goal for us going forward is to make sure we always bring you opportunities to review and give us direction, so that way TxDOT, CTMRA, Campo know that anything we submit is because we intentionally want to make sure these improvements from Greg Lane to Johnson to Tower to Schmidt Loop, all those roads that touch a state highway, we need their support. And the best way to do so is to advocate and show the data, the numbers, the traffic, the incident reports.
Sometimes these in these stages of projects are when they ask for a third party to invest in, sometimes they're able to when at funding do reimbursements. Is this something that could possibly do that or no?
I think with the right of way, if we were to do some things for the project and right of way needs to be, or utilities need to be adjusted, if there's something there now, then we'll get reimbursement for those along that corridor.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask the question? How beneficial is it for when our residents have concerns that they speak up and contact the entities responsible for the roads themselves?
I think the biggest thing for us, I tell residents, is if there's an issue, a picture's worth 1,000 words. If there's a picture, there's something that's really that we can't see live, take a picture, and then we share that with either the county or TxDOT. And that has really been helpful. When we take a picture of a roadway that's a county responsibility, the next day we get an email, next couple of days it's scheduled to get repaired. And that'd be the one thing we can say, just because they're not out here every day. And so that helps us be able to send what our residents have experienced personally. The picture helps, and then we just try to monitor it from there. But the biggest thing is for our residents to, they can voice, but sometimes the voicing doesn't help if there's no photo. And the photo usually lets people know, hey, Manor needs help. And that's a big help for us, is to just share those photos. And the response, I think, so far, if you look at the roads over there on Highway 20, east of 973, how bad it was. Greg Manor up past Fuchs. We've taken pictures and sent that to the county, and you see that there's some work scheduled when we do that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and I thank you for touching on the point of the continuous meeting with TxDOT, with Campo, with all of these partners that we work with, because I think that's something that kind of needs to be highlighted every now and then. Is we are continuing to meet with these partners of ours to push along these projects and voice concerns, right? And so I thank you and our staff for doing that.
And I think really what comes out of that is there's going to be improvements because we spoke up, and when they ask for citizen input, you're able to see that. So that's why TxDOT really wants to meet with us, because there's other improvements they need to make along 290. And so this is just our way of saying, don't forget about us. And it may be a year out, but at least the planning part is in motion.
I wonder, do we have, and this is just piggybacking on what Councilwoman Wallace said. I couldn't log in, but I was trying to see if there was in the app section, is there a way to upload images on that? Does anyone know? Yes, Yes. Come on up.
So on the My Manor app, we have a bunch of different features. The main thing that's at the very, very top is to submit a request. And in that request, you can choose to add a photo. You can also not add a photo, but obviously by what we just heard, it's way more beneficial to add a photo. There's also a description box where you can say what the road is, what you'd like fixed, whether it's a pothole or whatever the case may be. And then there's also a category that you click as well. That way it reaches the right department. So we see that it's mainly Public Works, all about the streets, and you can also track in that the status of the project, whether they see it, whether they're working on it, and what's being done. So it's very beneficial.
Yeah, that might be something we just think about. Building more of a public campaign specific for the ones that are regularly that we're getting regular requests about. Is seeing how to fund all of those through the app, so that we can fund them all of them straight to TechStop. Because you're right. I've been on the emails where a resident has said something either to me or to one of the staff members and copied me, and that photo went through, and there's a response out from that. So they definitely, that the resident feedback definitely helped move the needle on it. And that was one of the things I was didn't really spend a lot of time into. But the Oak Hill development on 290,
Yes, sir.
one of the things when they defined that, when they did their outline, the majority of the reason why the work happened was because of the town halls that the residents host and brought in those officials from TxDOT, over 80 meetings. And so they inundated them about the needs, and so it led to 43 million. So just keeping that in our mind about how we can maybe work together to, one, get the tools, make sure the residents know how to use the tools, and then work together with our community on, fighting the good fight together.
Right. And just to kind of give you a heads up, hopefully the next meeting we will have a resolution of support for Campo submittal for the 2028 to 2031. Again, some of the things we've missed in the past is we've never been able to have any of our projects on a list. And so the goal is to make sure we support county projects and make sure that vice versa, county support us. Because right now our residents are feeling like the voices are not heard, but we have to explain to them, we got county's attention, we got TxDOT's attention, we have everybody's attention. So all we have to do is just intentionally share that part, so that way it's not we can do all the enforcement, we can do everything we need to, but the biggest thing is to make sure those meetings take place, and the meetings like Campo that wants us to attend, or CTMRA, we can attend, because when they see us in numbers, they know that it's action takes place. And that's one thing about the 290.
When's the meeting? It's Monday. What time?
I think 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. So for all of those out there that are interested, I don't know if I can make it this Monday, but there's a Monday meeting with Campo, Capital Area Metropolitan
Organization.
Planning Organization. Metropolitan Planning Organization. This entity meets on Mondays once a month, weekly, once a month. At these meetings, they get they determine what the work they do determines funding for roads, major roads, and it's a good opportunity for us to. They have a public comments opportunity as well that we can go in together and collectively with data and information and make requests in regards to why some of these roads and projects have been missed for almost 20 years. So hope that helps. Any other comments, questions, council members? We did not get a motion yet. So I'll take a question or a motion.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the advanced funding agreement for voluntary local government contributions to transportation improvement projects with no required match on system with the Texas Department of Transportation, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement in an amount not to exceed $800,000.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Mascoy. Any questions to the motion? I have a correction, everyone. It's actually 2 p.m. on Monday. 2 was it 2 to 4? 2 to 4. 2 to 4 on Monday. Any questions to the motion?
I have one other comment, Mayor. The initial cost for this study was going to be $848,000, but because TxDOT got back in and they did some looking at the numbers, it came down from 848 to the 800,000. So I want to make sure that was shared with the community that it was 848, but then somehow they looked at the numbers and said it's 800,000 is the agreement.
All right. Been no additional questions. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Number 7, City of Manor, consideration, discussion, possible action on the City of Manor event calendar.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
I'm here with Stephanie. I know she knows all the details, but I want to be up here in the support. And we want to kick off, and we want to get your opinion and your thoughts on some of the events that we're going to be hosting. Of course, the normal events that we host, but we're proposing some time changes, maybe some days a little different. What I've been kind of helping with Stephanie and Timmy is kind of overall looking at the budget and making sure that we kind of stay inside that budget frame. So that's kind of why a lot of these things where we started looking at different times and what can we get for the big bang for the buck. Sorry, hopefully y'all could hear me. I can let Stephanie go ahead and go through some of the line items.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Starting off with March 28th, we are proposing to remove heli from the Easter heli drop, just due to safety and past events, and the budget for it as well. Looking back on the research and the data from past events, the helicopter last year was paid for. It was not a sponsored helicopter. And then other options below are Manor Extravaganza, Manor Egg Hunt for you guys to choose. And then we are also proposing to move the location back to Timmerman Park instead of CASA, or instead of East Manor Development.
What was the number again for this one?
All the way down?
I just want to add that with the helidrop, what we've had experience the last couple of years has been the helicopter having some issues. So we're kind of wanting to make sure if the helicopter does not start, we can still do some kind of other drop or some kind of egg hunt.
What kind of changes will this be for the staff? How will it affect the staff on the day?
So staffing wise, the fencing would be a lot. It'll alleviate the fencing if we move it to Timmerman. For staffing goes, it just mainly will be a PD heavy based to control the egg hunt. From what I've heard from last year, it was a little bit chaotic. So having more PD presence, but as far as like Timmy's public works team, it's not going to be as big as it was last year, but it'll be more kids activity, more kids towards the community, and we'll have more community activities for them.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is going to be Manor Palooza. We are proposing to remove Friday event date to make the Saturday event bigger. After looking at Placer and other financial aspects for Friday and Saturday, we are looking, this is our most expensive event on our calendar, as well as school is still in session for Friday night and parents are still working. if our change is to remove Friday, if it's not approved, we do have to have both dates. We're looking at adding a car show or a cook-off. Our carnival contact is not available to do the tour, so we would have to pay that out of pocket in order to have the carnival both days.
You talking about Manapalooza?
Yes, sir. They're not available at all to do the tour. We would have to itemize it, single itemize each ride through a vendor.
Let me back up. The 28th has 2,800 people last year. Also, we didn't have Miss Cho. And so a lot of what we experienced was staff doing multiple jobs to carry the gaps for events. And so that might have been what contributed to maybe some of the bumps in the road for events that were maybe hard. I'm not talking about the helicopter. I'm just saying anything else. And so I wonder, before maybe we jump to the moving, we maybe have some more fact-finding conversations, and also return back to the initial conversations we had when council was talking about the sponsorships and the community engagement. So we've worked with a lot of entities that have come into the area that have already been asking in regards to how they can be a participant in sponsoring events. And I don't know, maybe you've already asked them. They said no. We don't know. We haven't had an update about in regards to that, because you just got here. So, but just kind of having us. I like the fact that you're bringing the dates and those kinds of things. I know a few council members have had thoughts and ideas. Many in the opposite direction, how to make it bigger. And matter of fact, we always talk in Manapalooza about the idea of how smaller towns have their major festival, and they partner with the school district so the students have a day to come and participate in the festival and those kinds of things. So I'm not saying that we have to do any of that. I just want you to know that we've been talking about going in the complete opposite direction, and so we might need to have some time, maybe where we sit down and talk and learn more and talk about what's feasible, what's not feasible, or how we can maybe bring in some more external third-party entities into play, or do set-asides with some of the what's the things we get from in lieu of.
Oh, in lieu of the tree fund.
Yeah, in lieu of fees or something like that. Maybe have some conversations about some of those external. Some other opportunities in regards to that.
Thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you and what kind of ideas you have. I do want to bring up that when we were trying to crunch the numbers on Manapalooza, we do have a pretty big main attraction that is set already for Saturday, and I remember I'm pretty sure you said it was 1,000 that was attended on Friday, maybe a little less. So the main attraction was on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I do want to give her kudos. Stephanie is working. She's already got her foot on the ground. She's already got several donations, and it's a great start. But of course, we want to get what we can do to try to help budget a lot of these events. Yeah. When we started looking through most of them, we're pretty darn close, except for Manapalooza. If we get down to where we do 2 days and stuff, we will need to come back and definitely look at those money avenues with y'all, if it's for something with in lieu, or if it's hot funds or something like that, to where we can make sure we can have that 2-day event.
So, and just so you know, some of the holiday events, we also had conversations as council members. We've talked about how to engage the community to participate in some of those, and to eventually kind of maybe pass those off like they are in other cities, and we be more of a support to a community-based entity that puts on those events. And so there's some models just right next door and also in Pflugerville and so forth. And there's even a case to maybe bring some of those people together so that there's maybe one master calendar for some of those holidays, and we just do our part for the regional participation of activities, and that might dramatically reduce our costs in that thing. And what it does is it can give residents an opportunity. The ideal was on some of these holidays, it's joint, so the resident pays for a wristband, and now they can go and hit up all the entities in the 5 to 10 or 15 mile radius and participate in all events on that weekend. That was kind of some of the ideas that had been toyed around with. So I just want to make sure you have that information, because that conversation didn't go too far because we had changes. And so I personally am hoping that we build more community and that our residents get involved in some of taking on some of the cultural celebrations.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a conversation that we've had quite a few times already. And, and also going back onto on what you said is, now we have you, right? And so that's great. We can definitely build off on that, and I appreciate you for all the hard work you've done so far. But yeah, going back to, maybe there's, avenues where we can save some money, right? Partner with our Hispanic chamber, with our church, for example, with the Hispanic Heritage event, and because we have the same conversations, we want it to be bigger, right? How can we get more people involved, and how can we also save the city money on these events? And so whenever you want, I'm ready to meet with anybody. So, okay.
Again, just throwing it out there, because one of the biggest things we did was talk about Maynard-Palooza, at least since I've been on council, and that being like that signature event. It becoming more, it becomes a thing that goes in that, I don't know, what's that magazine called? T-Town or something? You know what I'm talking about? The little city magazine that goes around, and it becomes the festival that people learn about. It becomes, that space where, this weekend I'm going to go down to Maynard and kick it for, the weekend there. That's the main one. And so if we can figure out how to maybe leverage some of those conversations to free up dollars, I would hope we'd be able to do that one. Yeah. And I agree about the 4th of July, because I'm out there just dying. Who out there for hours? That's what from 6 to 5 hours. Yeah, that's a long time. That's a whole shift, and that's a shift of enjoying. That's a whole work shift, just enjoying the 4th of July. I can't imagine what y'all out there doing. That's 9-10 hours, if not more. So no, I definitely understand that. So I'll stop. I'll let y'all chime in.
And thank you. We look forward to working with y'all and getting every idea that you have and whatever resources we can do to get these events and get paid for and actually have volunteers would be great.
Yeah. So like I said, I think there's some people that are ready to help. And Councilmember Moreno's right. I mean, we were at the festival event at St. Joseph's, and I think there's a lot of potential right there to lean in with what they're doing there. I mean, they do really well at throwing a party, and so they do really well. And so I think there's something about finding the right people and maybe saying, hey, we're going to do this with you, and then that takes all that time and attention off, because there wasn't any city staff there, right? Yeah, security, everything. So, so I'm just saying, like, they're finding those different. That was always my hope, is that we find those different people in the community that say, hey, we'll get together and we can take care of the whole thing, or we can do this much of it. Can you help with that? And it just chisels down on our time, and chisels down on the cost. Because I know, even for the money we're paying and the overtime and all the donated time is way higher than what we actually realize when we have these conversations. And I think that's also what makes your team, and the police so awesome, is because of what they do in those spaces. but we're going to keep growing, and we have to start thinking about that sustainability. So definitely, again, glad you all are bringing it up on those things. And I know for sure, Mayor Pro Tem Hill and Councilwoman Hill would love to give you some ideas and some support with some of those things as well, and some feedback on how to leverage, again, how to have some other people step in so that you all's time and resources can be more focused in on those big ticket items. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
I also agree we don't need the helicopter because for 2 years in a row the helicopter didn't really kind of pan out. So I think this past year was a little less chaotic than that first year because the people didn't listen to the chief the first year. But you know, I feel that the helicopter, we can take that out, you know, because that's a major expense. But I don't agree with moving it because we had an awful lot of people that came out and a lot of kids that came out, and it's now something that we're known for. So I don't think we need to move it. We just need to restructure how it's done.
What's the capacity at Timmerman? Do we know? People capacity at Timmerman.
I think maybe at our largest event, we've had somewhere a little over 4,000 people out
At
there.
Timmerman? And then what about our other spot where we started Main Police at it?
Downtown, we had quite a few people. We didn't ever get a
That
actual
was-
count, but
that was
over
before we
the
count.
over the long weekend, we guesstimated it was about 7,500 people.
Yeah,
that was
that
at
one was
Manorpalooza.
pretty crazy.
Yeah,
And I will say this. I love how it looks over there, but it was something about the craziness. I don't know what it's like for you all.
It's a
but
lot.
but it was something about being able to go down into Old Manor and have that big party and festival for 2 days. It felt real good.
Yeah.
It felt like it gave, you know, when people always talk about how do you maintain that small town feel. It felt really, really good, and the businesses, all the vendors, the year they sold out, right?
Yeah.
They sold out.
Yeah.
Everybody sold out of everything on Friday and had to restock for Saturday, and you know, made good sales on that. So
Yeah, I think
going-
that's something too.
it was
Yeah.
charming, but
Yeah.
it was chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, charming, chaotic. You know,
Not enough parking.
but it was
Right, 'cause
it
we
was
were talking
huge.
about-
I just know that like
It was a different
there
feel.
was so many positive feedback, so much positive feedback,
And we had people coming from South Austin to the one we had downtown. The thing is, one of the things that's being stated in the community is we do not do like the parade that we used to do from, was it Benny Fisher Park to City Hall, or you know where they used to close off this little intersection right here and have the schools perform and have the marching band come through. We now have 2 marching bands in here. What has been stated is that small town feel that we had of having those type of events is no longer here. We want the big stuff too, but we also still need to include where our people that live here in the general area are not being left out because they can't make it out there.
Thank you. Yes, we have actually been talking a lot about that. Why don't we have a parade? You know, so that has been on our radar. And
That's funny because my son that lives in Orange was asking me, "Did y'all have a parade?" And I said, "No." And he said, because he lives in Orange, and he said they have a parade in Orange for everything. They love the small town parade. The people come out and show out for that, and they love it. So
yeah, and my final comment is to piggy off the mayor and about, you know, having something in old downtown Manor, right? It's that feel, right? It did feel good. You know, I lived here my entire life in this small town, downtown area. And so it was pretty cool to see, you know, a carnival and a fireworks show and, you know, a nice concert with the water tower. Now we have it lit up, you know, so it would look really nice. And I know it was chaotic, but I think it's worth just considering trying to do something. If it may not be Manorpalooza, but having something down there because I mean it benefits a lot of people. I mean all the businesses down here, you know, Eric Davis and this other, you know, buildings that are getting built. it's going to benefit, so many small businesses.
And our citizens that won't venture down to 290 down that far, they'll come and they get to participate. Some of them live around there and they love to be part of it. They just don't want to hit the highway and get down on 290, so.
So am I hearing a consensus? We'd like to have Manorpalooza downtown?
Say that again.
I would say, Council, even with our meeting with TxDOT today, they said someone has put in a parade permit. I don't know which event, but there's something being planned that some entities want to do a parade in Maynard. So until we know exactly when and the logistics, that I think the door's open for TxDOT to look at those permits. And so now that we're talking about that, just know that that conversation came up today, so there could be something planned accordingly to allow whatever that entity is want to do a parade. I just don't know yet. We were surprised, and I was thinking it was not on our agenda, but it's something that, again, if the community's going to come out, that'll give the community a good chance to say, you do value the smallness of that part of your community, but it can be really big in some people's life. And every event that we've had to see the families interact is neat. The pictures usually, again, are worth 1,000 words when you can see face painting, all the things that some kids don't get to experience in other cities. So thank y'all for allowing us to be able to try to keep that part of the community special, so that when you do take the pictures and put it on the refrigerator, it's going to always be a remembrance of what Maynard did for the people.
Can I ask that we have a way for the people, a formal way for folks that want to maybe relocate their festival or their activities to a park out here from Austin, that maybe we kind of push and put that out there. We hosted a leadership conference here one time, and one of the guest speakers does a summer concert series for youth. And, they basically it's not really as feasible as what it used to be to do it in Austin. And so they had been interested in maybe looking at something at Timmerman Park or even Jenner Lane, depending on logistics and all that kind of stuff. But how can we maybe take that, like promote something so that people can, hey, if you come have a meeting with us or something, you know what I mean? Like what's a good time for those kind of things to take place, and how should we like direct those kinds of things so that people that want to, and this is not people that try to do something for free. So this is like folks that are, some of these programs that I'm thinking of, they were partnerships with the city, but other ones they had external funding to put it on or whatever. But how would you prefer for us to guide folks? That is it just call you, or is there an official process that we can do, or have everybody meet at one time so you're not inundated throughout the year? What's your thoughts on that?
I believe that if we can all get together, that way it'll be a little bit easier for everyone, so that way we're all on the same page prior to the new year starting, and then that way we can go through all the events and then go through all the logistics of that. As far as other festivals coming, I believe it's just connecting with the right people. Most of them are contracted through that land until a certain time, so once we can know their contract, we can offer our land for them to come bring their festival here. And then that way we can do that. We do have our special event application for them to fill out, and then we can set that up as a contract and then create that as well.
Okay, and I have to go back in my emails to try to find the contacts, but there's been 3 different genres of music folks interested in knowing, like, okay, is there an information session on how to plan and build a music festival in Maynard? And again, that's straight revenue for us, because they're going to do whatever they got to do on their end to pay for whoever to do whatever they're going to do. So
yeah, I think because that's a question that I get asked too, is how does somebody partner with the city? How do they plan an event? And music is another big one, being so close to Austin, and you know, they're saying the new, was it Zilker Park and Whisper Valley they're trying to make. I mean, I would not be surprised if more music festivals come on this side of, 130. So yeah, capitalizing on that. But yeah, it just information, right, is teaching people, the process.
Yes, thank you. If you have the contacts, then yes, I can absolutely start reaching out, doing more research, and then reaching out to them to see if they would like to come look at the site, have a meeting, and then get the right people involved.
Okay. And then bands that want to play here, same thing. Just tell them all to
Send them our way.
Send a demo tape
Send
to
them
you.
our way. Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Okay. For just to confirm, Easter, is there a title that you guys want us to go with and those options, or do you guys have any ideas so that way we can get marketing material ready to go for that?
I like extravaganza.
Yeah, I think that one works.
Okay.
I think, but it doesn't have Eastern there. But does it sound as cool with Maynard?
We can add Maynard Easter
Maynard
extravaganza.
Easter.
Make it all together.
Call it
We
Me
can
Day.
definitely do that.
Lost.
Okay. And then to confirm Maynard Palooza, we're gonna keep both days.
I would like that.
Okay.
I don't know. What are y'all thoughts? Is that something?
Does it have to be Friday and Saturday? Can it be Saturday
Can be
and
Saturday,
Sunday?
Sunday.
Oh. I'm out on Sunday. I'll be at church.
I think it's
But
hard.
Y'all can be there.
Saturday can be an all day just like it has been, but using the Friday cost for Saturday would just be able to, for us to make it a lot bigger, allocating that fund there. But we can also have other ideas for Friday as well if it's not just a concert and a carnival, and that could be the community feel.
I like the car show idea.
The car show, chili cook-off. I know there's a gentleman that would like to bring a fundraiser there as well. Something like that. That Friday could be that day to bring that small town feel back to Maynard Palooza.
I mean, we got time, and I can tell you, in May, and maybe explore, because I don't know the star dates off the top of my head. But when they finish star testing at the schools, they need a day. So I don't know if that weekend aligns with them finished with star testing, but it might be a consideration as and to go from there. Because also, I'm not saying to move the dates. What I'm saying is there's during the last week of school, like they're taking kids on all kind of field trips because they've finished finals and stuff earlier last week and a half. Sometimes it's just nothing. So it might be a space to maybe dive into that and see if there's an opportunity to say, because folks in Dallas all the time, they got a day off for the fair, and they at the fair spending money all day long on that Friday. So just
Yes, so Friday is typically the evening, so it's going to be from like 5 to 10
I know.
p.m.
That's why I was meaning it's financially not worth it because it's just that at least that's what I thought you were saying, that it's not worth it because it's just a half day.
Correct.
But if the day is extended and you have people that are going throughout the day, because the kids go, guess where the parents going to be at?
Right.
And so it's another way to do that, and I think we've done. It's always been free, except for the rides and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
And that's also around Cinco de Mayo. So if we have something that is geared kind of towards that as well, like just make Friday Hispanic Heritage because of Cinco de Mayo. The food, the if you're going to have music, you have that kind of music, that type of stuff going on, plus a car show. That would be great.
Okay. Okay. Can do that.
Does that help? or did we
Yes.
totally derail it and it's not repairable now?
I think I just need to put my thinking cap on and to just crunch some numbers, see what I can do to have those two, and then figure out what we can do. Just
Get some
off of that.
sponsors.
Just off of that, because that's also because, like you said, Cinco de Mayo's that weekend, Kentucky Derby's that weekend. We have a lot of events that first weekend of May. So if it's moving that event, or even like you said, if schools has an early release one day, maybe being able to do that second Friday as well is easier for.
I think around this time they're talking about calendars for the next school year, so it'd be a good time to go and inquire with all the public schools and say, hey, and I don't limit it to just to Manor, because you want to try to get a regional draw. So, Elgin ISD, Pflugerville, Austin, Taylor, the charters in the area, Compass Rose, Del Valley, since they're about to build that high school next door for the most part. Just inquire, because like I said, I know even if the marketing is out there and the flyers are there and the kids know that it's available, they might get out there.
Okay.
And one more thing, because we've always kind of gone back and forth about the some of the celebrations start and end times and how long there are. And I think a key factor in all of that is that we haven't had a chance. We've had conversations, but we haven't really had a chance to plan the top of the year events in the fall like we need to. So we have less attendance, and then we spend a lot of our time on Manapalooza, and so everything that happens after that is kind of, kind of dips. And I'm specifically speaking about the Juneteenth one, because really the big things are the Palooza and then the 4th of July, and so a lot of time and attention doesn't happen there on the Juneteenth, which is why that's one of the ones I'm suggesting working with community members on, because I know they like the length of it, and they will probably be able to, if we support them, be willing to help carry that one, and get more folks out and get more entertainment and different things like that. And so, I think that's the reason why that attendance. I think we said it was like 400 last year. I think that those numbers can go up and will go up if we can help by just bringing people to the table for them to start planning with us maybe the first year, and then kind of gradually release out of that and just be more of a support, consult for them. And they got it.
So keep it from 12 to 8.
Well, I'm just saying let's have I think we need to probably have there's a couple of council members that always like to be involved in that one, that aren't here. I would say include them in that conversation, and then talk about what's feasible.
Okay.
Because you were talking about the key thing is the money. So I would say let's talk about what's feasible, what we've invested in the past, and if there's a way to still navigate those things with the available funding for this year or not, and then go from there. And because they may know folks that might supplement that.
Okay.
Or take it completely off their hands. So, because again, that's the long term for Juneteenth. Or at least that was what we talked about in the past.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
I just wanted to make sure you saw any of the other proposed times or dates, if y'all had any comments or anything.
Proposed dates for movies in the park. At one point, so we're talking about one a month instead of back-to-back Fridays, right? Because I think one year we did a bunch of Fridays in a row. Is that correct? Yeah. It was was it June? It was June because it was busy. I remember we had Friday movies every night, and then we had Juneteenth, and I feel like there was one more thing that we did during that time period. Right afterwards, that's what it was. Boom, 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 boom. So you're saying just to do it once a month? No.
Yes, I think it'll be easy for us to make it bigger. as far as like maybe adding vendors, adding, just really, like you said, focus on this event
High
other than
quality.
right. So I would like to bring that quality back, the small town feel back into those events, and not just have it be rushed, so that the community can really enjoy.
And I think that would help with the attraction as well. Just kind of knowing, people knowing, and that's just one of the things we haven't had that I'm thankful that you and Ashton here now is a actually pre-planned marketing plan for the events, and so that, you know, things go out on a scheduled time period and they stay repetitive before the people, so it's not at one time and we forgot, but it's kind of boom, 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 boom. Now, so I'm locked in that this is coming. I'll give you an example. I'm going to a concert in February because somebody paid for an ad for that concert to be on my wife's feed over and over and over again. And so now I'm going to that concert because they put it in her feed too many times. And so we're going there. And so I think just doing that same effect, like how do we get those ads to just kind of boom, 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 boom. And so that they know, and so that they show up on, like, if we're saying 7:30 to 9:30, like they're there, and we can kick off, and it's a good, meaningful 2 hours or however long it's going to be. I
Yes,
think
'cause
that that
summertime-
goes along with that. Like that part has to be coupled with the planning, so that we don't just have a bunch of great things lined up and then 20 people come.
Right. And it's hard because summertime, the sun doesn't set until after 8:30. So
Yeah.
9:30 is a rough estimate. Once the movie ends, then that's when everyone will probably pack up and go home. But that's what I estimate that time frame. So that way they can start, get their seat, and then have our popcorn machine, things like that, just to get volunteers, city staff, or even the community to come and be a part of that event.
Yeah.
And then after Movies in the Park, we'll have our Hispanic Heritage, Deck the Park, and Holidays in Manor, just to look ahead on those proposed times and dates.
So is Deck the Park, that's really just about the lighting and the kickoff?
That's the tree lighting event, yes, sir.
Yeah, but that's like the main purpose for it. That's why it's a kind of a short deal.
Yes. So this past our first one, once we did it at 6:30, 6 to 8 was our time frame. Once we did our tree lighting at 7:15, 7 o'clock, around that time, once you lit the tree up, everyone kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
So, and then we all had to, a lot of our city staff, due to the Holidays in Manor being the next day, it just was easier for them to just wrap it all up as well. So that's why once the tree lighting is on, most residents don't stay.
Okay. You say move it a week later. And is it the third weekend when everybody's out?
Yes. This will be the second weekend.
Do we not want, is that better to do it the second, or should we do it the third? You saying it's better to do the second?
I wouldn't do it too close to the actual holiday, just in case students are leaving for vacation or anything like that, finals. I don't think the attendance will be as high if we do it too close to the holiday. So having it that second week, because most of the just doing research off of surrounding cities, I don't want to compete with them. I want it to solely just be about Manor.
Gotcha.
So I would like for it to be away from too close to the holiday or too close or on the same date as other events.
Gotcha. I don't know which is better, 4 to 8 or 12 to 4. I guess it depends on what it's going to be like. 4 to 8 says it's got to be good because that's what I'm done for the night. So it's going to have to be really good and worth the time. 12 to 4, it has to be worth going 12 to 4 as well. You know what I mean? And that might be harder to attract.
We would add more activities,
Activities.
more wow factors, so that the attendance is still high, if not even higher. Just because once we shorten the times for our events, the amount of rentals is increasingly less in that amount that they're charging. So with that, I can then allocate that to more activities. The rock wall was a hit for Holidays in Manor, adding additional ones, things like that, so I can make it, oh, they have that, let's go to that event.
Gotcha.
Also, we need to have more stuff to engage our teenagers.
Yes.
Because a lot of them are walking around with their siblings, but there's not a lot for them to do.
So we didn't hit 1,000 until 4.
That's from our Placer software. So our Placer, it's not a fully accurate software where you're able to track the number of attendance, because it asks if you have your phone and it asks you for tracking. That's how that's how Placer tracks you, right? So we are looking to remove Placer and begin the numbered wristbands, so that way once residents, guests, the public comes to our events, they'll get that wristband, so we'll be able to keep a
acronym.
Yes. The Placer, no. You have to allow your phone to track. So since we carry 2 phones, if one phone doesn't, or even children, you can't really fully account for those people.
Gotcha.
So that's why these numbers are a lot different than the state of address numbers.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Any other questions, y'all? That was the holiday, so do y'all have a preference?
I don't. For the holidays in the park, I don't really have a preference. I guess that's also because I don't have any kids, so.
Well, I mean, I would say take the feedback, shift into some of these actual times and stuff, and then maybe shoot it back out so people can look at it and see what a kind of like a draft looks like with the proposed times, and see if there's any thoughts behind it from there.
Okay.
I like your idea when you said 12 to 4 and beefing it up for attractions.
Can we do a compromise and do a 2 to 6?
Absolutely. You can do that. Is that confirmed for everyone else? 2 to 6 is okay with everyone? For Holidays in Manor.
That's the only reason I say this is 6 is hard because it's a Saturday, right?
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of like you hit that once you hit that 6, like it's like, oh, man, my
And this
whole
one's
day
hard.
is gone now, and I got time to do something else.
Yes.
But I started in the middle of the day, and 12 to 4, I understand those time blocks because I know if I'm doing 4 to 8, then that's it for the night. If I'm doing 12 to 4, I still have time to do something else for the evening. 6 kind of makes it go past because I have every now and then I have a meeting that goes from 5 to 7 on a Saturday. That just tears my whole weekend up.
And 4 to 8 was due to the fireworks.
Say again?
The fireworks.
Oh yeah, well. So it's also we're talking about fireworks and no fireworks.
Right, since this year.
I don't think we're going to have fireworks.
No, that was from our July 4th event.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
now
okay.
it's possible. It's just we will have to look at the logistics of that
And paying for it.
and paying for it. So that's why our attendance was slightly higher during that 4 to 8 time frame.
One time ago, we talked about didn't we plan New Year's?
We
And
did. It
then
got
whether
canceled.
something happened. Like I brought.
I don't recall what happened, but there was discussion of doing New Year's, and I think that the focus was to change it to
I
make
thought it
4th
was
of July better.
I thought it was weather.
It was.
I think it was weather.
It was
because
weather.
it was planned. It was advertised.
Yeah.
But then it got because of weather. It got
And
canceled.
it didn't even it didn't rain or something.
Because I was
So
looking
like,
because it was supposed to be downtown.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to it. but-
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
All right.
Okay.
So just thought.
So, yes. Okay.
All right. Hey, again, thank you both for.
Thank you.
You probably way more than you want.
Okay.
But thank
you.
Yeah, thank y'all. All right. Let me find my spot. All right. City Council will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in it. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code. Take action, if any, on items discussed during closed executive session. Consideration, discussion, possible action on a Fifth Amendment to the Development Agreement for the Manor Heights subdivision. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, council members, Veronica Rivera, Assistant City Attorney. You have in front of you an amendment that has been, the Fifth Amendment that has been negotiated between the city staff and developer, their legal counsel, and financial advisor are here to answer any questions. City is recommending approval of the Fifth Amendment to the development agreement. However, we do have some minor changes, edits that have been discussed with City Council during executive session. So if you would like to approve this agreement, we ask that you consider making a motion providing to include the edits that we discussed in executive session.
Any questions, council members? I'll take questions. If there's no questions, is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor, council like to make a motion that we approve the Fifth Amendment to the development agreement for the Manor Heights subdivision with the edits discussed in executive session.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Ware. Any questions to the motion?
And I apologize. The other thing that I just wanted to let y'all know is that the reimbursement agreement, deposit agreement, and trustee agreements will all come back to you at another session, council meeting.
Sounds good. There's been there's a motion on the floor. There's been a second. No questions to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Time is 11:06. This meeting is adjourned.